we are from Group 1, and we would like to present our research entitled A Pragmatic Analysis of Negative Politeness Used by John Keats in Deaf Poet Society. Before we explain our research, let me ask you guys some simple questions. Have you ever asked someone for help by saying, "Could you help me?" instead of "help me"? Even though both sentences have the same meaning, the first one sounds much more polite. We usually speak this way because we want to respect other people and avoiding sounding rude. And this is called negative politeness. And it is the main topic of our research. Language is not only used to share information, but also used to build good relationship with other people. When we communicate, we often think about how our word will affect the listener. Because of that, politeness becomes an important part of communication. According to George Ewell, one important idea in politeness called face. Face means a person's public self-image or the way they want to be respected by others. Sometimes we ask someone to do something or give advice. We may accidentally treat that person's face. To avoid this, people use politeness strategies. One of the strategies is negative politeness. What is negative politeness? Negative politeness is used to respect others' person freedom. Instead of giving direct commands, speakers usually make indirect requests. Use words like maybe or perhaps, apologies, or use formal and polite expressions. These strategies make the conversation sound softer and more respectful. For our research, we choose the movie called That Poet Society because it shows many examples of polite communication in school environment. The movie takes place in strict boarding school where teachers and students have a different level of authority. Because of this, the characters often choose their words carefully. Our research focused on John Keating, an English teacher who has a unique teaching style. Even though he wants his students to think differently, he never forced them. Instead, he gives them suggestions politely and lets the student make their own decision. And this is why his way of speaking is very interesting to analyze. Now, let's move on to literature review. Our research based on George Yule's theory of a negative politeness. According to Yule, negative politeness is a strategy that respects the listener, freedom, and reduce pressure during communication. Some common strategies, including making indirect requests using hugging, words like maybe and perhaps, or apologizing, reduce emotion, and using formal or polite expression. We also look at several previous studies. At first, study analyzed negative politeness in TV shows called What Would You Do? The research found that people often use indirect requests and hugging because these strategies help keep conversation polite and avoid conflict. Second study focused on the Rosie talk show. It found the speaker often use formal expression and apologies to make their speech sound more polite and respectful. Other study from International Journal on Integrated Education explained that negative politeness is very important, especially when people communicate with someone who has higher position or authority. This previous study shows that negative politeness is commonly used in many situations, such as in television programs, interviews, and everyday conversation. However, there's still very little research about negative politeness in teacher-student interaction, especially in the movie called That Poet Society. Because of this gap, our research aimed to analyze how John Keating used negative politeness when communicating with his students and how these strategies help create a respectful, supportive learning environment. The finding will be explained by Mulan.
All right, thank you, Nindi. Now, I would like to continue our presentation by explaining the methodology and findings of our study. First, let me explain the methodology. In this study, we use a qualitative descriptive method because our objective are to analyze how negative politeness strategies are used in conversations. Our data consisted uh, at least 18 utterances spoken by John Keating in the movie Dead Poet Society. We selected these utterances because they represent examples of negative politeness. To analyze the data, we applied George Yale's theory of politeness. We classified each into one of five categories: indirect requests, hedging, minimizing, imposing, apologizing, and using formal or polite expressions. Then we identified the function of each utterances, such as reducing impositions, showing respect, or maintaining social distance. Our analysis followed three simple steps: identifying the data, classifying the strategies, and interpreting their functions in the teacher-student context. Next, the findings. From the 18 utterances, we found five types of negative politeness strategies used by John Keating. Among them, hedging and indirect requests were the most frequently used strategies. For example, the sentence, "You might want to think about that," is categorized as hedging because it softens the suggestions and avoids sounding too direct. For example, "Could you try to think for yourself?" We classified this as an indirect expressed as a question command, so allowing students to feel responsible. We also found examples of minimizing impositions, such as "just try to step up on your desk," where the word "just" makes the sound less demanding. For apologizing, the one example is "sorry if I shocked you," which acknowledges possible discomfort. Less polite expressions such as "would you mind reading that aloud?" shows respect while maintaining professional between the teacher and the students. Overall, our findings show that John Keating prefers using polite and indirect language instead of giving direct orders. Through these strategies, he encouraged students to think independently while respecting their freedom and authority. Conclude my method findings of our study. Now I would like to hand over the presentation to Fadilah, who will explain the discussions and conclusion in more detail.
Okay, guys, let's move to the discussion. The analysis of the 18 adherents revealed it frequently employs various negative politeness strategies to maintain a respectful and non-imposing classroom environment. Among the identified type, hedging and indirect requests appear most frequently, indicating Kate preference for softening his speech. Indirect requests are used in utterance such as "Could you try to think for yourself?" and "Can you keep a secret?" These forms reduce the force of command by framing them as questions rather than direct instructions. According to Euler 19, this help minimize imposition and allow the hearer to feel less pressure. In a classroom context, this encourage students to participate voluntarily rather than out of obligation. Hedging is another dominant strategy, as seen in expression like you might want to think about it, and perhaps you can find another way. There's adherence so uncertainty and tentativeness which help avoid sounding authoritative or judgmental. This is particularly important in Keating's teaching style, as he aims to promote independent thinking rather than impose rigid viewpoints. Minimizing imposition is evidence in sentences such as just try to step up on your days, and you can try if you want. The use of words like just and conditional parts reduce the perceived burden of the request. This aligns with that speaker often attempt to lessen the impact of their speech age. Apologizing is also used strategically. For example, excuse me, could you repeat that? And sorry if I shock you. This expression acknowledge potential disruption or discomfort. Therapy, maintaining politeness and respect. Additionally, the use of formal expression, such as "Would you mind reading that aloud?" reflect a respectful tone that preserves social distance. Overall, there is a determination to create a supportive learning environment. Rather than asserting authority, Keating used language to empower students and respect their autonomy. This demonstrates that negative witness morally about formality, but also about fostering positive interpersonal relationship. Okay, and for the conclusion, guys, this study conclude that negative politeness plays an important role in communication in that poet society. It is mainly used to encourage cooperation, show respect, and maintain harmony in formal interactions. The finding saw that negative politeness appear drove indirect requests, permission-seeking expression, apologies, and courteous responses. These forms are especially common in conversation between student and authority figures, where social distance and power differs are clearly present. Overall, the movie demonstrates that politeness is not only a linguistic feature, but also a social practice shaped by context, hierarchy, and institutional norms. The analysis of negative politeness in that poet society helps explain how language is used to manage social relationship in educational settings. Okay, that's all for our group, and thank you guys.
I just had to let you know you're